Presenting Steelion Steel Structural Building Solution. Steelion has taken a giant leap in steel structural building category by providing a holistic approach which aims at not just structural fabrication but also incorporates elements like architectural and structural design, construction at the worksite, finishing works, and project management. This EPC model, or Engineering, Procurement and Construction, is what makes Steelion a leader in steel structural building solutions. The EPC model ensures less coordination hassles, faster completion, and a single-point accountability system. The construction of a typical steel structural building starts in different modules and happens almost simultaneously. While the foundation is being laid in the worksite, fabrication of steel structurals and walls happens simultaneously in two other assembly units. This is a major factor attributing to the faster completion of steel structural buildings when compared to conventional buildings, especially in the case of multi-storied buildings and high-rises. The time taken for sanctions and paperwork can be saved considerably, as the fabrication work can happen even when the documents are getting processed. Also, the fact that the construction is happening in a controlled factory environment ensures that the highest quality standards are confirmed with. The foundation of steel structural building mainly comprises of reinforced concrete structures that forms the base of the steel columns. Steel structures, being lightweight, doesn't require large amounts of concrete, thus saving the time and cost of foundation laying. This makes steel structural buildings an ideal solution in areas with loose soil. Also, the whole foundation laying process doesn't cause disturbance to neighboring properties. Steel columns are fixed into the concrete base and fastened using stiffeners. The steel columns occupy just a fraction of the space when compared to conventional concrete columns. The space thus saved adds on to the overall usable space in the finished building. Larger spans up to 18 meters can be achieved without the interruption of columns. Structural fabrication process is the making of the backbone of a steel structural building. Steel plates of standard dimensions are cut into plates of desired specification. These plates are then fabricated to form the beams and columns. Even though the I-shaped structure is the most frequently used structural, plates can be made in various shapes like C, L, O, square, etc., according to the specific structural requirement. Several angles are fixed to the structural beams that act as connectors. Now the steel structural columns and beams are ready to head to the worksite to get assembled. Fabrication of steel structural walls, which also happens simultaneously, comprises of 3 stages. Steelion dry wall cladding system ensures that these stages roll out perfectly with minimum time and labor force. Steel tubes are used to form a square frame. In this frame, tubes are again mounted as a mesh. On this massive steel frame, 2 cement fiber boards are sandwiched on either side using dry wall screws to form the wall structure. The sandwiching of cement fiber boards happens at the worksite. The meshes with steel tubes are then transported to the worksite for assembly. Next is the erection of the steel structural building. Columns of multiple floor heights, usually 3 to 4 floors, are erected on the foundation base. To this column, several beams and secondary beams are attached in each floor in a sequential manner using steel bolts with high tensile strength. Building erection is the fastest phase of the entire construction process, as it involves methodical assembly of various prefabricated structures. Also, the workforce required for the construction process is very less. If a conventional building needs 100 people for construction, Steelion Steel structural building in the same specification need to employ just 10 people. The next process is to build the floors on each level. Composite floors are made by decking profile sheets and concrete. Steel profile sheets forms the base structure of the floor. This structure is connected to the beams and columns of the respective level using shear connectors. Over this, a mesh of steel bars is placed and a mixture of concrete is poured to form the composite floor. Once the concrete is set, appropriate finishing materials like tiles are spread on it. On the other side of the floor, which forms the roof of the level below, false ceiling is done. The gap between steel profile sheet and false ceiling is where the utility elements like AC ducts, electricity lines, and plumbing tubes are concealed. Next, the walls are mounted to the steel structures. Walls with cement fiber boards on either side are used for internal room partitions. In case of external cladding, aluminum composite panels are most commonly used. On examining the cross-section of a typical dry wall, one can see the following compositions. At the core is the steel tube mesh. Above it, on the side facing the interior of the building, will be the cement fiber board. Over this, there will be a gypsum wall lining on which a putty finish is applied. Finally, on this layer, the finishing elements like paint or wallpaper can be spread. On the exterior, aluminum composite panel will be mounted. In a steel building, if required, the wall can be built with brick also. This is possible due to the superior strength of steel structurals. After wall cladding, joineries like doors and windows are fixed. After floor decking, prior to the fixing of wall, the steel structures are fireproofed using vermiculite-based fire protection system. The value engineering proposition offered by Steelion Steel structural building solutions are design flexibility, faster completion, architectural perfection, EPC model, earthquake and fire resistance, lesser workforce requirement, recyclability, and superior strength. Systematic planning, methodical processes, and strict compliance to quality is what makes Steelion Steel structural building solution an ideal and perfect way to build multi-storied buildings and high-rises.